Okay, I may change the order of some of these things because there's some input that we'll need from you. I want to make sure that we have your input before you have to leave. What time do you leave? About 10:30? Okay, thank you. Is there any reason not to begin right now? Hey, then we will. Good. Hi, Patrick. Patrick has arrived, so now we can begin. Don Steep is joining us on screen. Hi, Don.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I will call the meeting to order. It's about 10:05 right now. Would everybody please stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Proceed with the roll call, please, Karen. Present.
Don Sieb,
Here.
Sherry Hilsheim, Van Nelson, Patrick Metz.
Okay, everybody's here. We have a quorum. To approve the agenda from last time and its posting. Karen, everything's been posted. Everything's good.
Everything has been posted and sent out.
Thank you. In review of the last minutes, they appeared to be fine with me when I first looked at them, but there's a couple of changes I'd like to make, please. Last week, to go to the very top, we talk about those that were here, and there were 4 citizens here. There was a gentleman that came in late that was kind of bearded, sat in the corner. So that instead of 3, that should be 4. So if we may make that change, please. Another one, if you move down to the budget report, the last sentence says the CVSO stated that to begin the process, the veterans should call the office. We had a very lengthy discussion that went on forever, it seemed. But I was the one that brought that up. It was part of my conversation. And I had asked that they see the CVSO, and the CVSO did acknowledge, and so that should be fine. And then there was one other thing that was not included, and we had a long, convoluted meeting last month. So to go through this thing and try to sort things out was not an easy task. There was one other thing that I talked to Karen about changing, and that's Mr. Metz had asked why there was no money had been used out of the budget that we had for veterans, and the CVSO explained that none had been applied for, and that's the reason why nothing had come out of that account. So if we could add just those 3 items, I'd appreciate it. Is there anybody else that has anything to say? Sherry? Okay, Van, was there anything? Okay, Patrick, Don, anything else?
I have no comment.
Okay. So with having made those changes, if I may have somebody move to approve the minutes.
I move to approve.
Okay, Sherry moves.
Suggestion.
Thank you. And any second for that? Okay, Van seconds. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, opposed? Okay, unanimous, it's passed. Okay, moving on to the next item. Number 5, review and approve the September meeting minutes. I guess we just did that, so we'll just kind of forego that. That's been done. Number 6, committee and commission structure, and I think this is something that Mr. Langrick was going to discuss with us.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chair? We're on. There's an item that's going to be coming forward.
If you want to move your mask so we can hear you better, please.
There's an item that's going to be coming forward to the county board this coming Tuesday. It's going to be a report from myself. It's going to capture a conversation that we had with Rules and Resolutions Committee. A proposal brought forward through that body is looking to potentially restructure some of our elements with committees and commissions, impacting this body with a proposal to separate the commission from a committee role and have a commission focused on simply Chapter 45 and the elements that are captured in state statute, Chapter 45, with veterans grants and working in that realm, forming a separate body to work in a committee realm of being a subsidiary to the county board and monitoring and advising and giving guidance on expenditures and those types of duties. With the structure change that's currently drafted as a proposal, the commission would stand as a 3-commissioner body of veterans as defined by the state statute 45. The committee then, with oversight on and guidance on operations, would then be a 3-person body as well, composed of county board supervisors. I think it's drafted as of right now of 1 being a veteran as available. So that would be the structural change on the language defining the authorities and the duties and responsibilities of the committee is yet to be firmed out. This is kind of a hearing that's going to be brought to the county board on. We're working on this. It's something that would go in place next session, next April, when the next county board would be seated. But trying to take it to the board, say this is out there, probably bring it back to a rules and resolutions forum for a hearing on, do we want to really kind of pursue this? At that point, then I would envision it then being kicked out as, this is a proposed plan and coming to departments and coming to boards of what's your feedback on this and what's your recommendations, and trying to put that together potentially in December, possibly January timeframe, so that it's kind of in place and we have expectations locked in for going forward into the next April session. That's kind of the one piece that impacts you folks. The other piece then is also with the seating of committee and commissions, and kind of moving that from a committee on committee elected role into a committee advising a county board chair and a county administrator role, which is another kind of change in that package that we'll be talking in depth on Tuesday.
Am I on still? Okay. So long as I've been on this committee, it's been kind of difficult for me because we have state regulations to follow and also county regulations to follow, and there should be 2 separate groups, and I've never seen that. And as far as I know in the past, I'm not sure how this operated. So I talked to Clint about this, and we're in the process of trying to iron this out so that we have 2 different groups, a committee and a commission for the state, committee for the county board. And with Clint coming on as the administrator for the county, the roles are changing and our descriptions have pretty much remained the same. So we've got to find a way to kind of make all this work for us. So these are things that Clint is going to be working on, and we'll go with the final discussion after the entire board and the other appropriate committees have taken this up. So thank you, Clint. Is there anything else that's on this agenda that we should get to before you have to leave?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Don?
Yes. Just a slight comment in response to Mr. Langberg's remarks. I would like to see the 5-member body as it presently exists continue as a Veteran Service Committee, and then I would like to see 3 members of that committee appointed to a separate body called the Veteran Service Commission, 2 of whom are veterans who are not county board members, and at least 1 county board member. They would operate as 2 separate government bodies with a wall in between them, because the information that the commission will focus on is highly confidential and there are requirements for its confidentiality in the statutes. The commission, I believe I'm correct in reading this, the commission is required, a Veteran Service Commission is required by statute, by state statute. And of course, a oversight committee, a separate body, is a part of the county board's oversight structure and function. So historically, there was a Veteran Service Commission, and they ran out of veterans. And so the committee responsibilities were transferred to the Human Service Board. And the commission itself, composed of 3 veterans who at that time were not board members, existed as a government body. That is my vision of how this should operate. There would be no additional members in terms of committee structure, because merely 3 members of the existing Veteran Service Committee could be also appointed to the Veterans Commission. I would like to see us consider that approach, Mr. Langrick.
Can you hear me, Don?
Yes.
Yep, I'm tracking that, and kind of from a follow-up conversation we had with rules and resolutions as well. It's on my things to consider.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I understand what Don had said, and I like the fact that we've got 5 people on this committee. I think it's always better to, 5 is the optimum number, I believe. I understand, you know, going to 3, any odd number is good, but optimally, I think 5 is the best. But as you speak with the others and as you consider this, please keep that in mind. But then we'll kind of discuss this at a later time, and we should kind of go from there. We're kind of in the process of dealing with this, so we'll have to see kind of where this all comes out. So, any other comments?
Like Supervisor Seep has expressed, if you have an opinion on kind of what you think it should materialize to, there's going to be a process to it. It's not just a, as Clint says, what we're going to do kind of a thing. It's, I envision again, kind of taking this to the county board. This is what we're thinking of. We come back to rules and resolutions, and they'll kind of discuss, do we want to solicit this out? There'll be a chance then to take formal action as a board and as bodies on how you'd like to see it changed or recommendations that you have. That would be packaged up then myself, brought back to rules and resolutions with kind of a final proposal to them. They would have the option then at that meeting to make changes as they feel fit, and then onto the county board. And at that point too, the county board can still decide what the final product's going to look like. So that's the path that we're kind of going down. So it's a kind of a warning order right now at this time.
Okay. So I think we're at the ground floor of this whole process. I like Don's idea of 5 and 3. I know that suggests, Pat, what's your thought? Would you like to stay with 5 as a committee and 3 is? Okay, are you on?
To whom are you speaking?
Don, it's just me trying to figure out the mic. Sorry. Yeah, I would agree with the 5.
Thank you. Sherry, what's your thought? Okay, so 5 and 3, and then Van? Okay, 5 and 3. So Clint, this committee is kind of in unison on that 5 and 3. So as you move forward with this, please just kind of consider our thought as you do that. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Don?
Just a quick note that, keeping in mind the Veterans Service Commission is not going to meet very often. They're only going to meet probably in the beginning to describe the rules of their commission, defining their role, their authority, their responsibility, and their duties consistent with the statutes and in consultation with the administrator. The fact that there haven't been many requests, as Karen has pointed out, it's a very good point, that there are a lot of resources out there in the community, and that may be a very good reason why there have not been so many requests for assistance. I think down the line, as we think about this, we need to think about something like a consortium of care, where we involve other resource agencies and pool our needs and our resources in terms of ideas. We know that our Human Services Division has mental health services. They also have transportation services. They have psychiatric social services. The Veteran Service Officer has contact from time to time with almost every social agency, state and local, district attorney's office, child protection, any and every one. I think someday it might be worthwhile to consider the idea of a monthly meeting among all of those resource people, share ideas and share how each of them can contribute to a case in need. That's just throwing that idea out there. But in the meantime, this commission, as it has been, as the history indicates, will not be meeting very often, except perhaps in the beginning to get its feet on the ground and write up its rules and procedures and policies. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm talking too much.
You're certainly welcome. Thank you, Don. Karen, did you have a comment?
Yes, just a brief one, about the committee for the 3 and 3 versus the 5 and 3. Like that's been stated, the commission would not be meeting nearly as often as the committee would. And so I just wanted to get my 2 cents in. From a budgetary standpoint, I would prefer the 3 and 3 because less money will be coming out of my budget. And there will be less interaction, I guess. And I know that the Richland County is famous for having many committees. And so this would also free up additional assets so that they can contribute their time to other committees. So I just want to get my 2 cents in from standing from a department head budgetary. That's what I would like to see as well.
Totally understood. Thank you very much for your input. So Clint, that's something else to consider. Don?
Karen, just keeping in mind that you're still gonna have the 5 people who are presently serving. It's just that 3 of them will, on occasion, meet as a veteran commission. You know very well that, you know, in the past 5 years, you said only 1 request for assistance. So I do not think this is going to be a burden on your budget, keeping in mind that some of us are contributing our per diem and our mileage, which is a contribution to your budget. So I wouldn't worry about the budget thing.
Okay. Thank you, Don. You know, one consideration along those same lines is the fact that here we are today, 5 members and Karen, along with Clint. If we were to have our usual committee meetings at set times during the course of the year, if we were to adjourn this meeting and go right to the commission meeting, that could be considered part of the same meeting, so that there wouldn't be extra monies expended for a separate meeting of, if we have the same, 3 people of the 5, that way we're to save money for ourselves. I think we've discussed this before. Don brought this up. So if we were to do it in that fashion where we have our meeting, when we're done with our business, we dismiss the meeting and then re-adjourn as a commission and do what needs to be done as a part of that other meeting, then we'd still be here. It would not be an extra burden for anybody, because here we are. So if that's a consideration, maybe that's something we should suggest. Is there any objection or any other thoughts on that idea?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I do have one. And,
Yes.
and I'm sorry to be so loquacious here. Keeping in mind that the only time that commission is going to meet, the only need for it to meet after it lays down its initial uh, structure and function details, the only reason it's going to meet is going to be to act on a request that is prepared by the veteran service officer who acts as the administrator and the executive secretary of the commission. Uh, she needs the commission's approval of her proposed expenditure in behalf of a client. Now, who knows when that will come up, but if it's a request for assistance, usually that client can't wait until our next meeting. We may have to have a telephone conference among the committee members where she can present the answers to the questions that are related to the application and to the eligibility. And the committee can either give their approval or disapproval either to the amount or change the amount, whatever the case may be. But what I'm saying is they're not normally going to be meeting at the same time, hardly ever, I suppose, as our, and there's no need for them to meet, but there is an urgent need for them to meet if there's a request for an emergency assistance, if somebody's going to get kicked out of their house or and they need help with their rent or they need groceries. They got 6 kids in the house. Those are decisions that mostly have to be made by the information that commission would get from Karen. So it is not very likely and not very often that this commission would might meet once a year based upon the past history, keeping in mind also that Karen is aware of all of these other resources in the community that she can explore in behalf of that veteran. Not only the veteran service organizations in town, but the human service organizations that we have here. So I don't mean to be pedagogical about this, but that's the way it is, and I think Karen would agree.
Okay, thank you, Don. Totally understood the commission would meet very infrequently, and whenever that were to happen, we could just include that, like I suggested, maybe following a regular committee meeting. So we'll just kind of let that stand and let Clint kind of deal with where that goes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Karen's next. Just a minute.
I just wanted to say that County Administrator Langrick has to leave here within the next 2 minutes, so I just wanted to thank him for coming to explain this to the committee.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Okay, Sherry. Oh.
Mr. Chairman.
Push it forward toward you.
Roy, I wanted to see if there was anything that you would offer the suggestion box discussion, because I think you both had met about that.
Correct. My position remains the same on, I think, the bottom of the return forms, if we have on there, that they can be presented up to my office and my staff. And I can be the recipient if there are folks that are uncomfortable in returning those back to the Veteran Service Office.
Okay. Don, you had one more thing to say?
Well, now too, but the first thing is, my point is that the matter of suggesting that, they could meet before or after would only be on occasion when they have a regular business meeting and they're not responding to an emergency request. If there's a request, they need to meet right away, regardless of the schedule of the Veteran Service Committee. And of course, the Veterans Service Committee cannot participate in the meeting of the Veterans Commission anyway, because their mission is confidential.
We're on agenda 8. item
Yeah.
number 8.
So, yeah, we went to number 8, suggestion box and survey questions. Don, we understand what you're saying, and so we should probably move forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Don. Thank you. We're on number 8, the suggestion box. I think Clint addressed that, right? Yes. So we took care of that. Is there anything further on that subject? Aaron and Clint are working on that, so we're beyond that then. Clint, is there anything else we should discuss before you leave?
Not that I'm tracking. I appreciate everybody's time and efforts, and we'll reconnect in regards to the committee commission structure here in the near future.
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking time to be here. We appreciate it. Okay, let's move back to 7 then, conference report. Aaron?
Yeah, it's been posted to the packet on the website. Just some basic information there. The asbestos speaker was wonderful. He was really wonderful to hear him speak. He's very passionate about his job and identifying those veterans that may not have known that they even had asbestos, because a lot of them come in as COPD. So that was really interesting to hear him speak. And ironically, when Andy Miller spoke, one of the websites that he actually taught us about, I actually had the chance to utilize that yesterday. So that was pretty good. So yeah, I mean, if there's any questions about anything that I put on there.
Personally, was there anything else that you really enjoyed about the meeting? That's outstanding to you?
No, I think that was about it.
Okay, but it was helpful, and that's...
Oh, extremely. There was lots and lots of like just little updates, from each speaker contributes in such a great way, that we took a lot out of it. All the things that were interesting and intriguing, I scribbled down, really quickly. And so for the report that I gave to you, I just took the ones that had the biggest influence on me, and that's what I included in. So there's takeaways from everything, from every question asked, it's a great experience.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that report. So we're done with 7 and 8. Let's move to 9 then, process for aid.
That was just, so the reason that I provided you the policy and procedure manual for administration of the Richland County, Wisconsin Veterans Relief Fund is just for you to see it, just so that you have that reference, because we were speaking about it last month. It was approved by this committee. Hold on. If I can find my correct folder. So this is a common form that's used by CVSOs all throughout the state, and it was approved on Friday, January 19th of 2018 by this committee. So it has been reviewed, and as I said, CVSOs across the state use this. So this is the version that I choose to use.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Don?
Karen, is a pretty long document, considering that the statutes are very precise in their explanation and their prescriptions for this. I think that there's an area that we should consider for review and perhaps trimming it down somewhat. It's a pretty long and complicated document, and there are some words that I would like the committee to consider in terms of their implications. One is the use of the word indigent. Aid to an indigent. If I were a veteran who was in bad straits and wanted a small amount of financial assistance, I would not, in reading that document or reading that policy, would not like to be stereotyped as an indigent. An indigent is somewhat akin or analogous to the term vagrant. I think we should give consideration to some of the language. I think that this is a document that was written a long time ago. I think you told me you got it from Greene County. And I think that we could update that document and make it much briefer than it is. Actually, the guidelines are pretty clear in the statutes, and I'm hopeful that as the new commission gets established, that one of their projects will be to review that document and come forth with something that they feel is they're comfortable with. I'm not comfortable with that document as it presently exists, and I would be interested in, I don't know whether Patrick has had an opportunity to read it, but there's a lot of verbiage there and a lot of jargon that really is unnecessary for a budget that is such a small percentage of our county budget. And the request for assistance, we're not talking about somebody asking for $10,000. We've only got $3,000 in the budget. And normally it might be $300 or $250. I would hate to see us put a veteran through a whole bunch of red tape. I would like him or her to feel welcomed and treated with more dignity than some of those terms suggest. So I think we should be very careful with this. This is such a small amount of money that we're talking about, and I mean we've got several pages over a piddly distribution of money. I would like us to give more thought to that, and I may be wrong about this, but the poor are our masters, and if somebody's in poor straits, they need to be treated with the highest amount of respect and dignity. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Don. Your point is well taken. Karen, where did this document originate? Is that state or was that?
It's state CVSOs.
Okay.
And the two things that I wanted to say, indigent is a legal term, and that's why it's in there.
It's defined on page 3.
Correct.
Gives all the instances that are considered an indigent.
And then the other thing I wanted to let you guys know is I cut this document in half. It was twice this long.
Okay.
So it's a read and understand, they have to sign. It's a lot like, when they give you a 5-page document, some people take it home and really, lean over it and read into it. And there's others that just scan it and sign it. And I mean, it's up to the person that's actually applying, but this document stands.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we put this document, that we postpone any use of this document until the committee and perhaps the new commission and the administrator have an opportunity for more input.
Okay, so you made a motion?
Yes.
Anyone second? Okay, Van seconds. Any discussion? Sherry?
Or how we can put this on hold and not be used until
We don't have a commission yet anyway.
Well, I know. So that's why we, should just move on like we already have been. And then, yes, I understand with regard to the commission, when that's available, that I think it needs to be used.
I would concur. I think using it as it is and then reviewing it for future revisions if necessary or possible, but to take it off the table for Karen to use is kind of crazy. I think.
Yeah. This I think
Well,
is,
she can't use it without a commission.
I understand that, but she
Well, we-
can't
No, I-
call it.
we are kind of a
Or-
combination of commission and committee at this point.
Correct.
Because
Yep.
that has been assigned, and usually, in fact, at the top of the agenda, it says this is the Commission, Veteran Service Commission. So that in itself, I think, would do this. I think to not allow Karen to use this would be a mistake.
Well, I don't
This
think
is
it's gonna be a
something
big
we-
problem because she
Don,
hasn't used
Don,
it for
I've got the
5
floor.
years.
Don, I have the floor. We need to consider this. I think your suggestion is good, but it's something that I don't think we need to act on at this time. That's something that we should consider for the future. And I think this is something we should take to our county attorney and maybe have him take a look at it from the legal standpoint to maybe cut it down further and make it a little bit more usable in terms of we who are the general public and not lawyers. A lot of this is lawyers speak. That's kind of difficult to deal with. But anyways, we do have a motion on the floor, and let's take an individual vote. Karen, would you call members, please?
Lee Van Landyke,
No.
Don Sieb,
Aye,
Sherry Hillsheim, Van Nelson, Patrick Metz.
No.
3-2.
Okay. The motion at this point has been voted down. But Don, I think you have a good idea there, and it's something we should take up in the future, and I think we need some legal input first. So thank you for that suggestion. I think it's something we should pursue. Words do make a difference, and we need to make sure we stay within the law. As Patrick had said, this is a legal term that's well-defined, and even though people may find it a bit cumbersome or maybe derogatory, it's a reality. So having done that, then what I'd like to do is maybe save that for a future time. Don, put that on the back burner, and let's bring it up as soon as we have a commission stated. And maybe Karen, if you would go and maybe speak to our attorney to see what we can do about maybe cleaning the language up so that it's shorter and more direct.
I'll send it to him for review.
Okay, so Don, it's going to be sent for review, and we will have a legal opinion on that so that we're within the law and able to do our jobs as a commission here.
just keeping in mind that the veteran service officer at this point does not have authority to spend any money from the Aid to Veterans Fund without a legally formed body called a commission to approve it. That's what the statutes say.
Okay, Karen?
This until if and when this committee gets divided into two, you act as the commission and committee.
That is
So
correct.
that's the way it's been since
Yeah.
for 6.5 years that I've been here.
Yeah,
So
this
that would
goes
not
long.
change now just because there's a pending perhaps in the future
Yeah, this
separation.
has gone long before the time that I was on this board, and this group has been both commission and committee. This is the thing that was confusing to me when I first came on, because I think, what are we, in fact? But we are acting as both. And so at this point, until Clint and the committee on committees and the other groups decide exactly where it is that we go, I think we continue working as we do, and that way Karen can do her job without any obstruction. So with that, I think we're going to leave that just be at this point, and we'll let Karen go to the attorney and get some legal opinions on this. And as Clint said, when we have our next election in April, when we have potentially the same members and maybe new members on the board, and we're all reassigned again, we can maybe come up with something that's more viable when it comes to things that we do here. So we have.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I suggest that our committee members each, perhaps most have, read the Wisconsin statutes from 4581 through 4586. I think is quite instructive and will be helpful.
Okay, I agree. Thank you. So that is number 9, correct? Okay, 10, Veterans ETK software update. This is something that's important. We finally came out of the Stone Age and we're moving forward. So Karen, you want to give a report on that, please?
We are up and running and everything is great.
Excellent.
We had some amazing trainers who've also provided us videos and other learning experiences. When you get in there, you're like, oh my goodness, because there is a lot to learn. And then IT, John helped me get some other things within the system set up so that ours would work better with theirs. And everything's up and running and we're doing great. It's going to take quite a bit of time to integrate and completely become online with it. You know, we have 1,256 veterans in the county that are documented. And so to try to one finger type those in each at a time, it's going to take a minute, but it's great. It's going to be a real asset for my office. So thank you for that.
Excellent, excellent. Glad that's working so well. Moving then from there to number 11, the monthly visitors log.
That's been uploaded into the packet. If you had any questions about that.
I do not. Anybody else? Okay, let's move on to number 12 then, VA forms log.
That's also in the packet.
Okay.
It's been listed for item number 12.
Okay.
And if anybody has any questions about that.
I don't think there's anybody have any questions. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. The budget report.
That's also been posted in there under agenda item number 13.
Okay.
If anyone has any questions, but that is the final budget report for the last fiscal year.
Okay, so we're in the black. Everything's good. Services are being provided. Everything is good. We're very happy to hear that. For 14, office space.
I included that in the packet as well. This is what I had submitted, the proposal that I had submitted to Clint that we're being considered for. I know that earlier you had said that we have to answer to county and state guidelines. Well, I have to answer to county, state, and federal. And one of the biggest things the federal applies is that they don't want the file cabinets in the same office space that you share. And so this would be wonderful because we have veterans that have to use the laptop to have conferences, online conferences with therapists and people that they're seeing. And so we'd have a private meeting room, a file office, and 2 separate office spaces each. I think I've mapped it out well on that photo, exactly explaining why and what I would utilize this space for. If anyone has any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay. Don, did you have something? Okay. So everything's kind of in flux as always. We've got, new rental spaces. We've got people moving in, moving out, moving around. So we'll just kind of have to keep an eye on this as things continue to change. So thank you, Karen. Public input, number 15. Is anybody here that want to say anything? Anybody on the horn that would like to speak? Cheryl, Peter, Don? Okay, I guess we're good. Yes. Would you state your name and speak to the mic, please? Take your mask off while you speak so we can hear you better.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Sandra Kramer, just letting this commission committee know that Veterans Day is coming up, and there were a lot of questions on whether or not programs were going to be held. The answer is yes. The only school that is going to do it virtually for us is St. Mary's, so we will not be physically present at that school. But the other schools are working with us, and we will have programs at all those schools. However, as we know, Jefferson and Lincoln has closed, so they are now called the intermediate school, and they moved to the middle school. what used to be the middle school. And the older students that were at the middle school is now at the high school. So, yes, there will be programs and working with the schools as we speak, and we'll go from there. We have to, basically, we will be masking up at every school is what the rules are. How they want us seated, we haven't gotten that far, but just wanted you to know that Veterans Day, there will be some programs in the area.
Excellent, thank you. I'm glad they're taking masking seriously because I think with COVID-D and our hospital is full, people that don't take this seriously, I think, are jeopardizing everybody else. So thank you very much for that.
If anybody has any questions, the American Legion here in Richland Center puts on the program for Veterans Day.
Excellent, excellent. And report from the VFW, anything, Marge? You want to come up to the mic? I don't think that's on. Just pick it up.
Hear me now? Okay, Veterans Day is always covered by the American Legion. The Veterans of Foreign Wars, we take care of Memorial Day, so highly respect what the American Legion is doing for Veterans Day. Thank you.
Very good. Anybody else care to speak or bring up any other topic? So, well, thank you so much for being here, all of you. Future agenda item. Did you?
I just
Karen?
wanted, I resubmitted the corrected minutes for September. I emailed them to you guys.
Excellent. So the minutes have been corrected and they will be put on, they will be posted. So that's been taken care of. We need to discuss future agenda items. Is there anybody that has anything for things that we might consider at future meetings?
Mr. Chairman,
Don.
just as sort of a timeline, the statute regarding 4581 calls for the appointment of those three commissioners by on or before the second Monday of December. So if we're going to approve this proposal to set up the commission as a separate body as required by the statutes, we have that timeline to keep in mind.
Okay, Karen, would you talk with Clint and maybe bring this to his attention? And if need be, either we can grandfather in what we're doing or we can move ahead. So just, discuss with him and maybe the lawyer to see where we stand. And if need be, we can appoint 3 people from this body here to do that particular thing after our next meeting.
Roger.
Thank you. So Don, that will be taken care of. So any other future agenda items? Sherry?
So have we completed our discussion about the suggestion box?
I
Essentially.
believe so, but if you have something more to say, please do.
Well, I think we're changing the process a bit. So I think we should follow up and see if that process is working, if people actually are as a backup source, if they don't want to turn in a suggestion form to the office, I guess, that's what I'm hearing was supposed to happen, but I think, and maybe that doesn't happen all that often for us to be concerned about it, but I just want to make sure that that process is working, and I'm not sure how we know it's not working.
Mr. Chairman, could I follow up on that?
Certainly.
Your point reminds me that we talked a good deal about the awkwardness of having someone fill it out in the office, and so we said, they should have an opportunity to do it in private. I think a simple solution would be for the veteran service officer or her staff person to, at the end of the day, after the veteran leaves, and apparently there are maybe an average of up to 4 people a day that come in for service on claims. Merely send the form out in an envelope addressed to them, inviting them to fill out the survey and with an invitation to send it to the administrator's office. That gives them an opportunity to deal with it at home privately, and it does away with the cumbersomeness of having someone in the office hand it to them and say, here's a survey, we'd like you to fill it out. You would be better off not to have any conversation because it may somehow influence their response to the survey. I think that would be, you wouldn't be sending out more than 2 or 3, possibly 4 envelopes a day, and they would have the address and the email address of the administrator, and the phone number of the administrator would be on there. I think that would be a solution.
Okay, let's put that on the agenda for next time.
Yeah,
That's something that I think we should discuss a little bit more thoroughly than just, doing anything about it right now. Sherry?
And also taking a look at the form itself, I think, were there changes made on that, on the suggestion form?
not since the last one I sent you.
Okay, so, well, anyway.
Point of
just-
order.
That's a point of order, Van?
Subject.
Oh, yeah, Don, we're off subject. We need to kind of move forward.
Well,
But
I was
just-
suggesting it as a future agenda item.
There we go. Let's do that. So Karen, if you put that down as our agenda item for November, we'll kind of get into that. And maybe in the meantime, just talk to Clint, because Clint, I know would like to stay out of this. He's got enough stuff on his plate right now. He said that last meeting. And so, Karen, if we were to send this out, that way it comes in, basically anonymously. And that way I think this would take care of Don's concern. And if people are really discouraged, they could send it directly to Clint, and then you and he could discuss it. So, but let's put that at the next meeting, okay? Thanks, Van. I think you were correct. Anything else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Don?
There was a public comment the last time, and I think the point was well made by Mrs. Curran about the public in general making comments regarding the suggestion box. And I think she asked, why is this a veteran service officer it sounds like being singled out. And I think that's a valid point. However, on the other hand, I think that Sherry's comment about interface with other workers, other employees in the building is a relevant issue, because the veteran service officer does have interface by virtue of her duties with everyone, almost every department in the building and in human services. However, I believe that that's not an issue that the suggestion box would work very well for. I think those can be handled in one-to-one meetings. If there are real concerns, they would, with the, say, Veteran Service Office, then they should have a conversation with Karen about that. If they
Don,
don't want to have
I'm
a
gonna cut you
conversation,
off on this because Van said we're kind of going astray here.
Van is right.
Let's save this for our next meeting where we can actually get into it, because we're kind of outside of the parameters of our purpose for this meeting. Karen?
If there's no future agenda items, then we're on to number 17.
Okay. So do speak to Clint about these. We'll kind of get that set up for next time. I'll go in with you and we can talk about this. So we are on number 17 then, set the date for our next meeting. Before I do that, I'd like to kind of make a comment. I've talked with Clint, and in that our duties are being curtailed a bit because of the fact that we now have a county administrator that does part of the role that we have done in the past. I think we should meet in November as usual. What is the November date for our next meeting on third Thursday? 18th.
November 18th.
Okay, so let's set down November 18th as our next meeting date. And then because December is the holidays and that, I think we should skip December's meeting. And then at our next meeting, we can discuss our January date to meet. From then on, Clint and Karen and I have talked about the fact that maybe we should go to quarterly meetings because there's so few things that we need to really discuss because of our kind of consolidation of jobs and things that we actually do. So that's something to consider. So that's kind of another thing for the future agenda. Maybe Clint can be here. We can discuss that further and then make our final decision maybe in January when we move forward from there. And in between, we've got that April election. So that's kind of where I'm at. So we do have the next date set for the 18th, and we'll kind of move forward from there. Sherry, did you have a comment?
It's like Clint has conflicts during this period of time.
Yes.
And so is there, is there a thought that is an important part of
Correct.
what we do? So I don't know if we could find a different time, date, I don't know, but I'm just throwing it out there that, I think we need Mr. Clint to be here.
I totally agree. Thank you. It seems to me we used to meet at 9 o'clock, didn't we? We met at 9 before when I first started, Karen?
That was a conflict for one of our committee members. That's why we changed it later to 10.
Yeah. 9 o'clock. I think Don was one that said that 9 o'clock was a bit too early for him. But this is something maybe we can consider. We'll have to check with Derek to see what times and days this particular facility is open so that we can maybe meet at a time when Clint can actually be here for the full meeting. Usually during this meeting, the airport commission meets, or the committee meets, and that's what he went to. That's what he's done in the past. Sometimes if they don't have a meeting or they postpone it or whatever, then he can stay. But frequently, like today, he's had to leave early because of that. So anyways, any other comments before we adjourn? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, for future agenda items, I could go along with the 9:30 start if that would be helpful.
Okay. So is there anybody that would object to any change of time, 9:30, 10 o'clock? I'm retired, so I'm happy, and I know Van is, so. Well, as long as we go out for ice cream after, he's happy.
I'll schedule it for 9:30 on November 18th.
Okay, so let's do 9:30, November 18th, so that everybody knows. We'll publish that. And
can we do that since it's not on the agenda? Yes, I guess we did agree to setting the time and date of each meeting, did we?
We did, yes. So we'll Karen, if you just kind of clear that with Derek to make sure that we're here. But so let's tentatively plan on 9:30. If it's anything other than that, we'll make sure that everybody's informed. Okay?
November 18th?
That'll be November 18th at 9:30 in this room.
Oh, sorry. Number 18.
Oh, no.
November.
They work out fine.
Sorry.
So I'll take a motion to adjourn if anyone's interested. All right, Van moves to adjourn. May I have a second? Okay, Patrick Metz seconds. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Good meeting.